Welcome to Standard 7C. In this standard, we will compare and contrast the development of social patterns in Central and South Africa. We'll also get into Standard 7D and explain the development of political and economic systems in Central and South Africa. If we think back to 7A, we learned the locations of numerous empires in Africa between roughly 1500 and 1800. In this standard, we're going to focus on those empires in Central and Southern Africa, and in particular look at their social patterns, their language, religion, things like that, as well as their political, their government and rulers, and their economic, their money and trade systems in these two regions. The essential understanding for this standard: between 1500 and 1800, African empires developed social, political, and economic patterns that mixed together both the indigenous, the native or original patterns, as well as foreign influences. This was a period of time in particular when Europeans were beginning to explore and set up trade posts along the coast of Africa. The patterns for these for social, political, and economic features are going to be a mix of the traditional indigenous things as well as these foreign outside influences. Okay, so our first piece of essential knowledge, we want to know the social, the political, and the economic patterns that existed in the empires in Central Africa. So we'll look here at Congo. Okay, and in Congo, socially, there's a big influence here from outside influences, in particular the Portuguese, who in the 15 and into the 1600s began to arrive with Portuguese missionaries. Okay, people sent to spread the Christian religion. And they found success spreading the religion, especially with the rulers of Congo. The Emperor Afonso converted to Christianity, adopted a Portuguese name, and over time, Christianity made inroads with the population, and it eventually resulted in the conversion, the changing or the switching of the entire kingdom to Christianity. So Christianity plays a big social role in the Empire of Congo. Okay, socially, the art of the Congo, was very elaborate. It was fancy, complex art. It wasn't simple art. And it used a variety of different artistic mediums. They used wood, they used cloth, and terracotta, baked clay pottery. You might be familiar from your World I classes. You saw in China the terracotta army. So kind of using the clay of the earth in a baked form to create forms. We're looking at this figurine here with all the pieces of metal sort of pushed into it. And if we think sociologically here, we see kind of the early form of what in the Western Hemisphere in places like Haiti became known as the voodoo doll. Okay, the figurine kind of accepting the pieces of metal pushed into it in different points here. Okay, so this is kind of an example of cultural blending here, something we recognize in various forms on this side of the world. Okay, we see here textiles made from the raffia palm, which was noted for being particularly very soft and smooth fabric. In fact, the merchants in Renaissance Italy, were just as impressed and just in demand of these fabrics from the Congo as they were the silk fabrics that came across the Silk Road from Asia. And we see here terracotta pottery. Just some examples of the artwork of the Congo Empire. Politically, Congo was ruled by a monarch, by a king, with centralized power. Okay, all the power was in the hands and the control of the king. It was all brought together in one place, and that king ruled over a bureaucracy. Okay, the many levels of government that kind of carried out the king's orders and made sure that things got done. Okay, so politically, we want to know this for Congo. Okay, and this should be number 4 on your notes. Number 4, economic. The economy of Congo was based on agriculture, okay, on farming, on metallurgy, okay, which has to do with working with metal, with taking metal in its natural form and adding things to it to give it various properties for strength or flexibility for various uses. Trade of ivory, okay, the tusk of the elephant, as well as slaves. So again, Congo's position on the Atlantic coast of Africa did make it a location for the slave trade, and we'll get more into that when we get to the age of exploration. Okay, the essential knowledge for our second part here, we're going to shift from Central to Southern Africa, okay, to know the social, cultural, and economic patterns of that region. Okay, so socially, the indigenous religion, we're here in the Zulu Empire, the indigenous religion characterized by ancestral spirits and the use of magic. Okay, so the Zulu kept to their traditional form of religion, okay, and didn't convert, as we saw with Congo, to the outside foreign influences that were arriving in Africa during this time. Okay, socially, the Zulu passed their history down through oral tradition, okay, through verbal language as opposed to written form, okay, in their indigenous language. And we kind of compare these two photographs of ceremonies for the Zulu, the picture on the top being taken in the late 1800s, the picture at the bottom being in more recent times. So we can see, even without a written tradition of writing down the history, the generations of Zulu were able to continue passing down their history, their language, their religion, their culture, down till the modern day to be part of ceremonies and things that take place today. Okay, politically, the Zulu were ruled by a monarch, okay, with centralized power over bureaucracy. So this would be something similar to what we saw in Congo. Okay, you may be familiar with the name Shaka or Shaka Zulu, one of the great rulers of the Zulu Empire. Again, centralized means all the power was brought into the hands of the monarch, of the king, and bureaucracy, the different levels of government. Okay, economically, the Zulu Empire was based entirely on agriculture, on farming, and on livestock. Livestock referring to the cattle, cows, goats, bulls, sheep, the various animals that were herded by the Zulu. In fact, in the Zulu society, wealth wasn't measured in money as we know it. It was measured in the size of the herd of cattle. Okay, so that was the key factor in the economy for the Zulu. And that concludes what we need to know for standard